Hello all and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. Now we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to comment, like and share our video. While you are at it, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button so that you will be notified when we go live. Now I'll have my newsroom colleagues joining me to talk about the stories that got you talking today. Now in our first segment, following the tragic death of Mr. Nasyari Suni, the police are now looking for the culprit responsible for causing a wine bottle to fall from a height on the 74-year-old delivery driver. Residents at the Spottiswoode 18 condominium said the police showed them a picture of an Italian wine bottle and asked if they had been drinking wine and were willing to provide fingerprint samples. Mr. Nasyari was at the condominium for a relative's housewarming party on Sunday when the bottle struck the top of his head. He was taken to Singapore General Hospital where he died on Monday morning. Yesterday, one of my colleagues, Kara Wong, was at the condominium to talk to the residents. Now, Kara is here with me at the studio. Welcome, Kara.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Now, Kara, so what have you gathered so far from the residents about the case? Did they say it was likely that the bottle fell accidentally?
Okay, well, most of them would have been questioned by the police by now. But an opinion amongst most of them was that it's very unlikely that the bottle accidentally fell out of a condo apartment, a condo unit, simply because there are no windows and there are no balconies directly above the area where he was hit, which was the barbecue pit area. So it just seems very unlikely for a bottle to accidentally fall at such a strange trajectory that it would hit the top of his head, lightly bounce off him, hit his wife, and then land on a table. And the bottle didn't break. So residents are all a bit confused, and they're also a bit wondering how it could have happened, because it just doesn't seem very likely that it was an accidental thing. But then again, we can never be too sure.
We can never be too sure. And also understand that the residents also said that this is the first of such case that they've actually heard.
Yes,
right?
So they said there is a small high-rise littering problem in the condo, but it's not big items like a wine bottle. It's all small things like cigarette butts or maybe tissue paper, that kind of thing. And it's the first time they've heard of something so big striking someone or even falling out of a window.
Right, and then causing such an unfortunate incident to happen, right?
It was really it's a very tragic accident. No one could have saw it.
Yeah, and of course, the police are still doing the investigation. So, have the police found anything so far?
From what we know so far, they have been working very hard. Investigations are still ongoing. So no arrests have been made so far. But they have been going door to door asking residents about their whereabouts, whether they've been drinking wine, whether they know of troublemakers in the area. So I think they're just doing their best. We might just have to wait and see.
Right. And of course, you were there at the area as well. Was the place sheltered, really, the barbecue pit? I mean, do you think, shared open spaces like that in condominiums should be sheltered to prevent such incidents from happening?
A shelter might have helped in this case, I think, definitely. But at the end of the day, do you really want to mandate that all open areas have a shelter? Because right next to the barbecue pit area was the pool. And that was not sheltered. We can't expect all pools to be sheltered. The litter could have just as easily fallen out of a condo unit, a balcony, to land in the pool. And where does the buck stop? So really, I think the onus is trying to educate everyone to not do such an irresponsible thing.
And having said that, of course, in your story also you talk about what people should know about high-rise littering. Because while there is the usual ones where little small littering like cigarette butts, and then there's also the one that causes harm.
Yes, right? Harm, hurt, injury. So what the lawyers have said is that intention is not entirely it plays a part, but whether or not you have the intention to litter may not in fact impact anything, because even if, let's say, you put a flower pot and you fail to secure it properly, so you didn't intend for it to fall out, but it fell out and maybe it caused hurt, or maybe it endangered someone's life, you could be charged for it.
Right.
So even if you have no intention to do such a thing ever, you could still be charged. Maybe under a lesser charge, but you could still be charged.
Because of the fact that you didn't secure and that posed threats.
Yes, and endangered the life of someone. So it's very dangerous.
Of course, the story is still developing. Police investigations are still ongoing. Our deepest condolences to Mr. Nasiari's family. For more news and videos, of course, on the updates to the case, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, thank you, Kara, for coming on to the show. Now, moving on to our next segment, the Ministry of Education, MOE, today announced that the government will provide higher tuition fee bursaries to polytechnic and university students from next year. Polytechnic students who come from the lowest 20% of household income groups will pay $400 less than what they now pay each year. At the university level, the most needy students will pay only $2,000 a year compared to the $4,000 they pay now. Now, the government's spending on bursaries for undergraduates and diploma students will increase by $44 million in total. To share more on the details of the announcement, I have Senior Education Correspondent Sandra Divi. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back again. So, Sandra, tell us, why did the government decide to up the tuition fee bursaries?
Well, you have more Singaporeans currently making it to university as well as the polytechnics. And as a result, with the increased cohort participation rate over the last 15 years, for the universities is as high as almost 40% now. You have more students from more humble homes also making it to university. And actually the Ministry of Education gave some figures today. Universities, for example, over the last 15 years, students from the lowest 30% percentile making it to universities has gone up from 13% to 21%, and for the polys it's gone up from 38% to 52%.
Almost double, yeah?
Yes, right. So the government feels strongly that they ought to help these students to enable social mobility.
And of course, for the dentistry and medicine school as well, they have seen an increase in number from the lower household incomes as well.
Right. The fees for medical students are very high, despite being very generously subsidized by the government, because it is expensive to mount courses in dentistry and medicine. But nevertheless, the government is increasing the bursaries for those from the who are needy, and the estimate is about 11% of the students in these two faculties qualify for the bursaries. And the most needy students will pay, medical students will pay as little as $5,000 or even less a year of their medical fees.
And Sandra, talking about this higher bursary tuition fees, right? Will it help to effectively defray the cost of rising tuition fees? I mean, of course, tertiary education, university tuition fees are also on the rise as well. Do you think it will effectively help to defray?
Yeah, well, actually around the world, costs of running a university are high and increasing, and actually in Singapore, it's been kept very much in check, the cost of university, going to university. But yes, I mean, the more generous bursaries will definitely help the students, especially those who come from the more humble backgrounds.
And the figures also, right? Because now for polytechnic students, they are paying $400 less. So that means they are paying $500.
Yes. Okay, so
when we talk about figures,
yes. Okay, so with the higher bursary, which will kick in next year, the most neediest students from the lowest 20% income group for polytechnic, who are going to the polytechnic, will only pay $150 of the $2,900 annual fees, right? And then, so this is $400 less than what they pay now each year. Okay, and in all, it will benefit 33,000 poly students. Now, for the university, at the university level, the most needy students will only pay $2,000 a year compared to the 4,000 that they pay now. And the full fee of a general degree at the university is 8,200, around there. Yeah.
So it will definitely effectively.
Yes, it will be a great help. Yeah.
And Sandra, in your opinion as well, do you think it's important really, for us to pump in the money to help with high institute learning fees, tertiary, polytechnics, universities?
Yes, I think as the figures show, more Singaporeans are now making it to university, polytechnics and ITE. And as a result, a higher percentage of them are also from the lower income bracket are also making it. And we should give them a leg up. I think what people should think about is the social role that universities play, both in bringing Singaporeans together. When you attend a university or polytechnic, you come together, you study together, you go and overseas immersion programs together, you do community involvement projects together. So it brings Singaporeans together. But the other important, I think very important social role that universities play is enabling social mobility. And not just universities, polys and ITE as well. Our universities and polys, obviously, looking at the figures on more students from the humble backgrounds making it, are obviously playing that role. And we should provide more help to enable this social mobility and social progression.
Right. Thank you once again, Sandra, for coming to the show. And of course, Sandra had to rush through this because the announcement was just earlier today.
Yes.
Right. And for the full details on the announcement, the figures, and all the costing, you can, of course, read up on Sandra's article on www.straitstimes.com. Once again, thank you so much, Sandra, for coming on to the show. Now, on to our third segment. Should there be a minimum age limit for private hire car drivers? Now, young drivers whom ST spoke to were not in favour of such restrictions. They say driving is a good source of income and can be a viable career. Cabbies currently have to be at least 30 years old, but private hire drivers just have to hold a driving license for at least 2 years. They can get the license from age 18. Now, to shed some light on this matter, I have journalist Zaki Abdullah. Welcome, Zaki.
Hi, Yanto.
Nice to see you. Now, Zaki, first up, if you could tell us what are the pros and cons of setting a minimum age for private hire car drivers?
So, during the act that was passed about 2 weeks ago, several MPs raised some issues. So, one of them was safety, with the perception, of course, that younger drivers are more reckless, not as safe as more mature drivers. And the other is that, with the incentives, the low barriers of entry to the private hire sector, that basically more younger people will be lured into this rather than going into other sectors. And this means that they don't enjoy some of the benefits that come in with more long-term jobs, your CPF, MediSave, things like that. Basically, as freelancers, private hire drivers don't enjoy these things.
And Zaki, in your opinion, would this restriction matter or make a difference to the current drivers that we have now?
Okay. In Parliament, Senior Minister of State for Transport, Dr. Janil Puthucheary, he mentioned that the data that the government has doesn't actually support this idea that younger drivers are less safe. So your private hire drivers who are below the age of 30, they don't actually get more involved in more accidents compared to older drivers. And as for the second point, he also noted that the younger drivers don't actually make a very large percentage of the total driver pool. So of the total number of PDVL or these private hire vocational license holders, only about 41,000, there are about 41,000 drivers, and of these, only about 4% between the ages of 20 and 25, and between 25 and 29%, 25 and 29 years old, they're about 12. It's about 12%. So you only have about 6,000 drivers out of the total pool of more than 40,000. So it's a very small number, and it's a very small number, and and it doesn't mean that when you hold a license, you're an active driver, you're out there full time every day.
Right.
It could be the case that these people, they get a license as a sort of a backup plan. So they have it as a side gig, or you know, in case they get laid off, they have something else that they can depend on. So for now, I don't think that having this glut of younger drivers is really an issue.
And Zaki, of course, the number that they've set, or the age that they've set, is 30, right? Is 30 really an arbitrary number? You know, what are some of the considerations in setting this minimum age limit?
So we have to take into account that when the MPs actually brought up the issue, there were several suggestions. Some people said 25, some people said 30. So 30 would put private hire drivers on par with taxi drivers, where historically and currently as well, the age limit is 30. And this has been the case for quite some time. And since the point-to-point transport bill, right, was about you know, streamlining the rules, making the regulations fair for both sectors. It makes sense that you would sort of have the same age limit for both. So when the bill was passed, there was no age limit imposed. So it's still the case that you only need to have the driver's license for 2 years. Dr. Janil did say that the issue is still being studied. And so it's something that could come up again in the future.
Right. So there you have it. Of course, the discussions are still ongoing whether this age limit restriction will be imposed on private hire car drivers. Thank you again, Zaki, for coming onto the show now. Of course, for more on private hire car driver issue, or just the issue on age limit, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Now, earlier on, we had Kara on the show, who shared with us more on the ongoing police investigation to look for the culprit involved in the falling wine bottle case, which has caused a man's death. And then we also had our senior education correspondent Sandra in the show as well to tell us about MOE's latest announcement, where the government is to increase tuition fee bursaries for uni and poly students. And last but not least, we have Zaki on the show also to talk about whether there should be an age limit to private hire car drivers. So there you have it. Those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, do log on to our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. Join us same time tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.